Take a person fighting to rebuild their life after a decade of incarceration and homelessness. Now compare them to a retired enterprise architect sitting in a high-rise office, suffocated by a total lack of purpose. Look strictly at their socioeconomic environments, and they have nothing in common. But if you measure their internal telemetry, the data is identical. Both are paralyzed by an acute fear of the unfamiliar. Both are trapped in rigid, self-defeating ruts. They are biologically surviving, but they are not alive. This is the environment of the ROFA Academy. Facilitators Valerie and Chris Maloney frame recovery as a universal human operating system, a practical set of mechanics designed for anyone trying to navigate a life transition. Moving from survival to true aliveness requires a two-part engine. First, you need a set of brakes to interrupt the destructive loop. Then you need a gas pedal to generate a forward vector. In this framework, aliveness is an active, functional mode. It's a state of participation that must be deliberately manufactured by mastering both halves of the mechanical engine. Valerie's diagnostic approach to the brakes begins with a reframe. She treats fear as a shadow cast by pain. Because a shadow requires a light source, the presence of fear proves there is still an attachment to something worth protecting. This handwritten note from the session highlights the Eskimo snow principle. If you use broad labels like depression or fear, you can't build a remedy. Feelings must be specifically decomposed and nuanced before they can be managed. When we fail to do this, we magnify our problems or minimize them. Take a parking ticket. You can magnify it into a conspiracy to find company in your outrage, or you can minimize it by ripping it up. Either way, the debt remains unpaid, and the bill continues to agitate your nervous system. To bypass those emotional reactions, Valerie uses a three-step behavioral corrective. Face it, erase it, replace it. You name the exact discomfort, strip away the dramatic narrative, and install a new action in its place. Neutralizing fear only stops the backward slide. To actually move, you have to engage the second half of the engine. Chris's rules for momentum focus on leaving the familiar, paired with structured preparation. Leaving your comfort zone without a plan is reckless wandering. Scanning down the board, we find the mechanical requirement for propulsion. Trust is inert until paired with a physical deed. This hand-drawn compass illustration shows how you navigate those deeds. A rigid destination often breaks when it hits a detour. A compass, however, allows you to realign your direction even when the terrain is unfamiliar. This is how the Hinge mechanism fires. You act on a mere fragment of trust to execute a physical deed. That action outputs undeniable lived evidence of safety, which expands your trust and allows for a slightly larger step. Courage isn't the prerequisite for this process. It is the physical byproduct of moving before you feel safe. What allows this curriculum to bypass the deep-seated defensiveness of both a hardened ex-convict and a corporate executive? This note points to a principle called anothen. While the word can mean from above, the facilitators here pair it with a horizontal axis. Guidance doesn't just come from an authority, it arrives beside the student, at eye level. Valerie implements this through vulnerable somatic testimony, sharing her own history to build a bridge. Chris approaches it through structure, asking students for their presence rather than demanding their permission. By protecting the student's agency, the facilitators allow this operating system to take root in minds that typically reject outside instruction. We are often told that the goal of personal growth is permanent fearlessness or a perpetual peak experience. These notes describe a different endpoint, achieving happiness in the mundane and boring. When you look at the student and the architect in their after states, they look identical. They are washing the dishes, they are keeping small daily commitments, and performing a nightly moral inventory. They maintain this stability through a strict boundary on making amends. You clean your own side of the street without demanding forgiveness or trying to control how the other person responds. True aliveness isn't measured by an absence of crisis. It is found in the quiet daily maintenance of participation, presence, and service to others.